Understanding the state's offer, do you wish to accept or reject the state's offer to resolve this case?
Reject.
Don't say it. Oh, shit. And so you take 15 years times 0.65 is 9.75 years. You take 4 years off of that, 5.75 years, 5.75 years. That's how soon she could get out. Intend. So they don't have to prove intent here. You know, they don't have to prove premeditation. They just have to prove that what she did was dangerous, and locking your boyfriend in a suitcase is eminently dangerous. Sarah told Jorge, for everything you've done to me.
For everything you've done to me.
Revenge is not a legal excuse. I had a client who was assaulted by this guy. A week later, she went back and stabbed the shit out of him. Not an excuse. It's a reason, but not a legal excuse. She's got an absolute screw loose. And what I mean by that is it's everybody else's fault. Sarah and Jorge jokingly thought it would be funny if Jorge just got in the suitcase located in the living room. Sarah zipped Jorge in the suitcase. Does that make sense that, okay, you hide, and I'll pretend like I'm going to find you? That doesn't make sense. You're putting him in the suitcase. You zip it up. Gee, I wonder where Jorge is. Well, as maybe you might wonder where his life is because it's slipping away.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own, very personal, very private, very in-your-pocket criminal defense lawyer who is, by the way, board certified, accompanied with our content genius, Michael. I can't believe how content and genius you are, Rivers. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Say hello to everybody. Let them know that you're alive.
Fairly well. Thank you for all the recent success.
Are we, do we have any merch? We sold
We have plenty of merch, so go check out clrbrucerivers.com.
Fresh stock of merch. Go to clrbrucerivers.com. You got hoodies. We got pretty much everything, right? Anyway, so today we're reacting to some news about Sarah Boone, as if she's not the gift that doesn't keep giving. But before we get to Sarah Boone and what she's doing or not doing, this is brought to you by our loyal sponsor, eForms.com. eForms.com, as you know, it's a very effective way to keep yourself out of court or when you get into court, and a way to avoid the high cost of a lawyer. So if you are sitting in jail and you need a power of attorney, go to eForms.com. Oh, you can't because you're in jail. Well, have your relatives go to eForms.com. They can download the power of attorney form, and you can have it signed, and now somebody on the outside can take care of your business. Or if your grandma's in your basement, you know, doing X, Y, or Z with all her senior friends, and you think, oh my God, grandma's really lost at this time. She wants to sell her crotch rocket. Well, you know, grandma's going to need a bill of sale. Where would you get that? At eForms.com. eForms.com. Go there. They're a loyal sponsor to our channel, and we love them. I use them all the time, actually. I have people using it for power of attorney all the time. Okay. So Sarah Boone, as you know, is charged with second-degree murder in Florida. But what is second-degree murder? You know, I was trying to come up with what is she charged with and what makes her guilty of a crime. Because if they were just playing hide and seek, how could you get in trouble for playing hide and seek? For Pete's sake. Well, let's just take a look at the affidavit of the arrest warrant, okay? It says, background. On February 24th at 13:01 hours, Orange County deputies responded to blank in Winter Park, Florida, in reference to a female reporting that her boyfriend, now the female is Sarah Boone, Jorge Torres, was deceased. The caller, later identified as Sarah Boone, reported playing a game of hide and seek. This doesn't make sense, and I'll tell you why. Sarah and Jorge jokingly thought it would be funny if Jorge just got in the suitcase located in the living room. Sarah zipped Jorge in the suitcase. Does that make sense? Does that make sense that, okay, you hide, and I'll pretend like I'm going to fucking find you. That doesn't make sense. You're putting him in the suitcase. You zip it up. Gee, I wonder where Jorge is. Well, as maybe you might wonder where his life is because it's slipping away as you go. So she zipped Jorge in the suitcase. She mentioned that she and Jorge had been consuming alcohol during the night, and then she went upstairs and passed out in her bed. She later woke up to her cell phone ringing multiple times around 11 o'clock in the morning. She went downstairs and did not see Jorge anywhere in the apartment. She then realized that he was probably still in the fucking suitcase. Doesn't say that. I added that. I gotta quit swearing, by the way. It's a bad habit, and I'll try.
No, you don't.
Okay. Sarah unzipped the suitcase and, to her surprise, found Jorge unresponsive and not breathing. Shortly after the 911 call, deputies arrived on scene. Orange County Fire Department confirmed that Jorge was in fact deceased at 13:07 hours. The decedent was found lying near the front door of the residence near a blue suitcase, a small laceration on the defendant's lip, and what appeared to be some bruising around his eyes. Interview with Sarah Boone on February 24th, 2020 at 16:57 hours. Detective Scott Lowen and I conducted an audio recorded interview with Sarah located in my unmarked squad. And that's when the following is a synopsis, and then you get the synopsis. And this is, I'm going to tell you why I'm reading this, because it's important I'm going to read to you what the charges are and what the penalties are. And that's going to make sense here in a second. On February 24th, Sarah gave a verbal and written consent by signing the waivers and affidavits form of the Orange County Sheriff's, in other words, the Miranda waiver, and to search her iPhone. I mean, she gives him the code. A digital forensic investigator responded to the scene and began to download the cell phone. While the cell phone was being downloaded, 2 videos were found on her cell phone. The first video began recording on February 24th, 2020 at 23:12 hours. That's 11 o'clock your time. Jorge repeatedly yelling out Sarah's name, Sarah. Sarah. Sarah told Jorge, for everything you've done to me.
For everything you've done to me.
Fuck you. Sarah was laughing when she said, fuck you. Stupid.
Sarah. You. Sarah. Stupid.
Jorge repeatedly kept calling out Sarah's name. Jorge said, I can't fucking breathe. Seriously. Sarah replied, yeah, that's what you do when you choke me.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me. Sarah.
Jorge continued to repeat himself, telling Sarah he could not breathe. Sarah replied, that's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe, babe. That's on you.
Oh, that's what I feel like when you cheat on me. You should have probably shut the fuck up. In this video, in the suitcase was facing downward, so you can see Jorge pushing the suitcase in an attempt to get out. The video is 2 minutes and 3 seconds long. The video began recording on February 24th at 20:20 hours. So, I mean, look, he's in that suitcase for a long damn time. Jorge yelled out Sarah's name. The suitcase was now in a different position, facing upwards, and moved over towards the left side of the living room.
Sarah.
So she's manipulating the bag.
Which is what? What is that called?
Tampering with evidence.
Yep. That's what I was getting at.
Huh?
That's what I was getting at.
So follow-up interview with Sarah Boone at approximately, February 25th. Sarah drove herself to Orange County Sheriff's located at 2500 West Colonial Drive, thinking she was going to leave, and conducted an audio. There, Sarah was informed that she was not free to leave, and she was under arrest. So the reason I tell you that is because, and this will dovetail nicely with what happened in court, the unlawful killing of a human being when perpetuated by an act imminently dangerous to another and evincing a depraved mind regardless of human life, although without any premeditation designed to effect the death of any particular individual, is murder in the second degree and constitute a felony of the first degree, punishable by imprisonment for a term of not exceeding life. So the maximum is life. But in Florida, the penalty for second-degree murder is a minimum of 16.75 years with no parole. Now, the government has offered her, I think, a plea to manslaughter. Let's kind of look and see what the offer is here.
Due to the potential storm and the ramifications of it, the court is going to postpone jury selection in this matter till Monday, October 14th at 9 a.m.
I have a condo in Florida. I can't get to it. It's so you've got the trial is going to be delayed. So she gets an offer from the state for 15 years. Let's listen to that.
Do you understand that if we were to proceed to trial in this matter, and if you were found guilty, the lowest permissible sentence that the court could levy in this case would be 22.5 years in the Department of Corrections? Do you understand that? Do you understand the state's offer to resolve this case? Yes. Okay.
The offer is 15 years to a lesser included charge of manslaughter, with the understanding that she would serve 85% of that sentence.
That's up to the department and her behavior, but that is my understanding of the section.
Ma'am.
All right. So the offer, so I take that back. She's looking at, because of various factors in her sentence and what she's charged with, she's looking at 22 years, and that's probably 22 years without good time. That's a minimum. So they've offered her 15 years, okay? And you heard what her lawyer said. Her lawyer said that's 85% off, or not off, but doing 85% of your time. And he said that's up to the Department of Corrections. That's up to the prison. But she could get up to 65 or do 65% if she earns her good time. And so guess what? If she took that deal and she got the 65%, where she had to do 65% of her time, she'd have to do just a little shy of 6 years, like 5.75 years. Because she'd have to do 65% of the time, which is like about 9 years. She's already got 4 years in, and that leaves her a little over 5 years to do. Just under 6 years.
Understanding the state's offer, do you wish to accept or reject the state's offer to resolve this case?
Reject.
Don't say it. Oh, shit. Here's the thing. When you have a client and that freight train is coming down the tracks, it's coming down the tracks. Like P. Diddy, he's on those tracks. Sarah Boone, she's on those tracks. And that's the government. That's the government coming down to run a train on your ass. And guess what? You are just so blinded by your own stupidity, you can't think straight. She'd be out in a little less than 5 years. So let's take out our handy-dandy little fancy calculator, because I have a Google machine here. And so you take 15 years times 0.65 is 9.75 years. You take 4 years off of that, 5.75 years, 5 3/4 years. That's how soon she could get out. And think about how old your kids are going to be. If she's got little ones, if she has a 3 or 4 year old, they'll be 7, 8 years old. 8 or 9, whatever. They're going to be still young. They're not going to be in high school yet. Guess what? You do 22 and a half years with no parole, they're going to be in their 30s by the time you get out. So think about that one. You think about that one, Sarah Boone. She's got a screw loose. She's got an absolute screw loose. And what I mean by that is it's everybody else's fault. They've got this they've noticed a battered woman syndrome or battered spouse syndrome. They've noticed that as their defense. The problem that they have with that, she sounds pretty callous when he's locked in that suitcase. And plus, her story that they were having a game of hide and seek tells you he wasn't beating her at the time. It just doesn't make sense. And when she is And usually that battered syndrome, somebody snaps. And look at all the time she had to deliberate. He's in the suitcase. You could have called the cops on him. You could have fled. So many other things you could have done. Instead, you got drunk and you went to sleep. For all the things you've done to me. This is what happens when you choke me, when you cheat on me. I mean, it just sounds like revenge. And maybe he deserved it. Maybe he was a dick. I don't know. I mean, but it's not a legal excuse. Revenge is not a legal excuse. I had a client who was sexually assaulted by this guy. A week later, she went back and stabbed the shit out of him. Not an excuse. It's a reason, but not a legal excuse. You don't have the right to do that. So when you have a client that rejects a plea deal, you've got to put that on the record. Because guess what? All of a sudden, they get the 22 years, and she said, oh, you never told me about that deal. I would have taken that away. No, you wouldn't, because now we have it on the record. You were offered it, and you rejected it. She's going to rue the day that she rejected this offer. She absolutely will. But she won't look at herself. She'll look at her lawyer's fault. I mean, she's on her 9th goddamn lawyer. 9th lawyer. Who goes through 9 lawyers? It's everybody else but Sarah Boone. I've never had a client that has gone through that many lawyers. I mean, once in a while you get a client that's, had a couple lawyers before you, and I'm always weary of that. Intend. So they don't have to prove intent here. They don't have to prove premeditation. They just have to prove that what she did was dangerous, and locking your boyfriend in a suitcase is eminently dangerous, especially if you don't do anything to let him out. I don't think that's where the aggravating factors come into play here. The aggravating factors come into play on what she's saying to him at the time, the injuries that he has to his eye, and other injuries that he has. Because, did she fling the suitcase down the stairs? I think there's some allegation that she did that. I'm not entirely sure about that. But his injuries kind of indicate not only... And you're locked in a fucking suitcase. Can you really defend yourself? Probably not. And then you can see in the video that the suitcase was turned over. Is that when he got the injuries? Probably likely. Is she kicking the suitcase? Probably. So when you look at this case... Remember, she was offered a plea deal that would have her out in less than 6 years. Remember that. Remember that. When she gets sentenced in about 8 weeks or so, or more, she's going to be looking at a minimum of 22 odd years, according to what the judge said. And my understanding is that she's not eligible for good time on a conviction of this sort. On the manslaughter, yes. On second-degree murder, no. So keep in mind, as you watch this, we'll continue to follow it. It starts trial on the 14th. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, yours. You know who I'm talking to. Your complete board-certified criminal defense lawyer, along with our content genius. He's everybody's content genius, Michael Rivers. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. Sign up for Patreon. And Michael, where can they get some merch?
You guys can go to CLRBruceRivers.com. Shout out to Tony Cosmos and shout out to Nick Davis. We have all sorts of stuff. Head there.
See you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That